Summary caps here. Today, I'm going to explain a biography, comedy, and drama film called The Intouchables. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. Bakari Driss Basari is a man who is full of enthusiasm despite his mediocre life. One day, Driss took an interview to become a nurse for someone named Philippe Pozzo. This Philippe suffered from paralysis, but he was also a very rich man. Unlike the other prospective nurses, it turns out that the reason Driss joined the interview was not to become Philippe's nurse, but to get a signature proof of his attendance at the interview, so that he could disperse aid funds from the government. In the middle of the interview, Driss got into an argument with Philippe and collided with each other about music knowledge. He also seduces Philippe's beautiful assistant named Magali. Seeing all of Driss's annoying behavior, at first Philippe planned to reject Driss, but out of pity Philippe finally promised tomorrow he would sign Driss's interview letter. After the interview, when Driss was about to go home, he took one of the decorative eggs at Philippe's house. After that, Driss then returned to his small house, which was very crowded, because he lived with many of his younger siblings. Then when the mother just came home from work and saw Driss, his mother was furious because it turned out that Driss had been missing for 6 months without telling her. Not only that, his mother was also upset when she found out that Driss was still unemployed. Seeing that the eldest child was unreliable, the mother threw Driss out of the house. The next day, Driss went to Philippe's mansion again to get his interview letter. But Driss was surprised when he heard a story from the head nurse, Yvonne, that there had been a lot of nurses coming and going quickly because they couldn't stand the 2 weeks of working there, even though they have been supported by very comfortable facilities, ranging from luxurious rooms to a delicious food menu every day. And on that day, unexpectedly Philippe suddenly decided to hire Driss for a 1-month trial, because Driss was unemployed and had nothing else to do, and he had also been kicked out by his mother. Driss finally accepted Philippe's decision. Then, Driss's duties as Philippe's nurse began. On his first day as a nurse, Driss often made mistakes, starting from falling asleep while massaging Philippe, cleaning Philippe's feet using shampoo, to accidentally spilling hot water on Philippe's numb feet. And that was when Driss was assigned to clean Philippe's ass. Driss got emotional and refused to do it, swearing that in his life he would never do that out of disgust. Finally, the task was done by another nurse. Then, task after task continued. The next day when Driss was going to take Philippe to a painting gallery, he refused to use a car that looked like an ambulance. Philippe said, "Just choose which car." Driss also chose another car that was more luxurious. When they got there, Driss was confused because Philippe kept staring at an abstract painting for 1 hour. Whereas for Driss, the painting is just a random painting. After looking at the painting for a very long time, Philippe intends to buy the original painting for 41,000 euros. Driss was surprised too, but since he knew that Philippe was rich, he said yes. Sometime later, a colleague of Philippe's told him to be careful of Driss. Because of Driss, it turned out that he had just been released from prison for 6 months for stealing. He also reminded that Driss is a rude and delinquent person. Philippe actually said that Driss was not as bad as his colleague imagined, because Philippe was very satisfied with his treatment. Philippe also shared one of Driss's strengths: he is good at entertaining people in unexpected ways. The next day, Driss discovers Philippe's secret, which makes him quite surprised, because it turns out that Philippe has always liked to send letters to a woman named Eleanor. And from that moment, Driss became very curious about Philippe's special relationship with Eleanor. Sometime later, Driss saw Philippe, who was short of breath and had a fever due to the side effects of his medication. Knowing Philippe needed fresh air, Driss immediately took him out in a wheelchair, even though Driss was still very sleepy. Driss took Philippe around the city of Paris to enjoy the beautiful scenery before sunrise. While walking around, Driss then gave Philippe his marijuana cigarette as a treatment so that the marijuana could reduce Philippe's pain. Driss finally asked about how Philippe and Eleanor's love affair was, because he was confused about how Philippe could make out with a woman, when his entire body from the bottom of his neck to his heels was numb and completely paralyzed. Philippe also replied that it turns out that all this time Philippe could feel the romantic touch of a woman or be aroused through his ears. Philippe also talked about his fond memories with his late wife, Alice. He said Alice is a very kind woman. He is happy with their marriage, which has lasted for 25 years. However, Alice, who lost a lot of blood during a miscarriage, eventually died. Since then, Philippe adopted a daughter named Elisa. He said that it wasn't actually this disease that made him feel miserable. However, What made him suffer even more was the fact that Alice was gone for good. Philippe also said that even though he regularly undergoes expensive treatment, it is still estimated that he can only live to be 70 years old. Shortly after their warm and intimate chat, Philippe finally appointed Driss as his permanent nurse because he had passed the probationary period well. But at the same time, Philippe also asked Driss to return the decorative egg given by Alice that Driss had taken. It turned out that Philippe secretly knew that Driss often stole things at his house, but Driss said that he didn't know the decorative egg, when in fact he just forgot where to put the decorative egg. The next day, at Philippe's house, Driss sees Philippe writing a poem for Eleanor with Magali's help. Driss also mocked him, because the poem was just a ramble. Driss was surprised to learn that Philippe had never met Eleanor. They both had been dating for 6 months. Annoyed by the unclear relationship between the two of them, Driss immediately called Eleanor, whose number was in the letter. And after being forced by Driss, Philippe finally dared to talk with Eleanor. Philippe also sent his photo to Eleanor. Sometime later, when they were watching an opera, Driss tried to make Philippe confident by saying that Philippe really doesn't need to feel inferior about his physical flaws, because nowadays women prefer rich men over physically perfect ones. The moment they were together, it felt very close and warm. The days passed, until one day Driss was angry that Philippe's daughter had been rude to him. But apparently, Elisa's attitude was not only towards Driss, but also to all the servants in the house. Driss then asked Philippe for permission to slap his daughter so she could learn a lesson and change, but Philippe forbade Driss. Annoyed at Philippe's overindulgence in his daughter's indulgence, Driss went straight to the room feeling very upset. Not long after, Driss was seen painting an abstract painting that he thought was strange. On the other hand, thanks to the encouragement from Driss, Philippe is now starting to dare to reprimand his daughter to be more polite to others. After that, Driss went back to his routine as Philippe's nurse. But there is something different. If previously Driss took his duties seriously and tensely, now he carries out his duties more relaxed and enjoyably, as if taking care of Philippe has become a source of entertainment for Driss. Over time, Driss's relationship with Philippe grew closer. After that, Philippe got ready to throw his birthday party. But before that day, Philippe told Driss that he was tired of his family treating him like a dying man. Indirectly, this moment also implies that Philippe is getting more comfortable with Driss, who treats him more humanely. Philippe's birthday party was held. Philippe had hired an orchestra for the party. On the other hand, Driss saw Elisa, who was locking herself in the room crying. He then approached her and asked what caused her to cry. Elisa also said that she had just been dumped by her boyfriend named Bastien. Then suddenly Elisa asked Driss to talk to Bastien. At first Driss refused because he did not want to interfere in their relationship. But after Elisa said that she would give quite a lot of money, Driss finally agreed. On the other hand, Philippe is offering his colleague an abstract painting that Driss previously made himself for 11,000 euros. Then at the peak of the birthday party celebration, suddenly Driss danced while inviting everyone there to dance together. He did it just to cheer up Philippe, which according to Driss, Philippe's birthday party had been boring. Driss managed to make Philippe laugh out loud. After the party ended, Driss then escorted Philippe to his room. There, he gave a reply letter from Eleanor. It turned out that the contents of the letter were that Eleanor promised Philippe that she would go to Paris next week to meet Philippe. And that's not all, Eleanor also gave her beautiful photos. Philippe's part was that day, he couldn't sleep all night. Sometime later, the day Philippe had been waiting for arrived. He prepared to meet Eleanor accompanied by Yvonne. On the other hand, Driss managed to make Bastien apologize to Elisa for breaking up their relationship. After that, he went to where his mother worked. However, because still feel guilty, Driss could only stare at his mother from a distance, then left. On the other hand, Philippe was waiting for Eleanor. He was nervous because he was afraid that Eleanor would be disappointed when he saw Philippe's paralyzed condition. Finally, because this nervousness was unbearable, he decided to leave there. However, just as Philippe was leaving, he accidentally crossed paths with Eleanor. But Philippe didn't realize that the beautiful and elegant woman who was passing beside him was Eleanor. One day, he invites Driss to come with him on Philippe's private plane. On the plane, Philippe gave Driss a sum of 11,000 euros. The money turned out to be the result of a previously sold painting. Philippe also said that Driss is very talented in making abstract paintings. Day after day they go through traveling while enjoying their time together, who are now no longer like bosses and employees, but already feel like close friends. It was time for the two of them to return home. Driss was waiting for Adama, his younger brother. He came to Driss's workplace after being kicked out of the house by his mother after being caught in a marijuana case. Driss was annoyed and scolded him for always making such a mess. Driss was called by Philippe to his room, where Philippe then started asking about Driss's past and personal life. He began to tell him that he was an orphan from Senegal, Africa. Adopted since the age of 8 years, the woman he had been calling mother turned out to be his aunt, and his real name was Bakari. While his young brother Adama is also a child born without a father, because in the past, the aunt or who Bakari had considered his biological mother often came home late at night and suddenly became pregnant. Hearing the story of Driss's dark past, Philippe's feelings became mixed, because all this time, Driss in the eyes of Philippe, who always looked happy, turned out to have a sad story. Philippe then told him to stop being a nurse so he could focus on fixing the Driss family's personal problems first, so he could work more calmly. Another reason why Philippe fired Driss was because he wanted Driss to be more successful in working elsewhere and not just being a nurse. Philippe also said that Driss' treatment so far has been very satisfying. Actually, he didn't want Driss to have to go, but that night as a friend, he did it for Driss's sake. In the morning, when Driss was about to leave, all the nurses there felt sad because Driss' presence at Philippe's house had brought happiness and joy. In the end, they all parted ways. Driss and his young brother Adama then left Philippe's house. On the way, they intended to pick up their mother who had just come home from work. There, Driss and Adama bowed their heads to apologize to their mother and immediately helped carry his mother's bag. No matter how angry the mother was who had kicked out her 2 children, the mother would still forgive Driss and Adama. The 3 of them walked home together. Sometime later, Driss applied for a job as a courier at a company. On the other hand, Philippe has a new nurse, but the nurse is not like Driss, who treats Philippe with laughter. Now Philippe seemed to be more and more silent, as if he wasn't comfortable and there was no one to comfort him like he used to. Until at night Philippe experienced shortness of breath, until the nurse tried to help, but Philippe refused. Finally Yvonne decided to meet Driss, so he could take care of Philippe back to how he used to be. The next day, Driss came to Philippe's house to see how he was. Seeing Driss coming, Philippe felt happy and sad at the same time, but there Driss immediately lightened the mood by mocking Philippe's appearance, which now grew with a beard and mustache so thick. It immediately made the moment the 2 friends nostalgic like before. Then Driss took Philippe somewhere. On the way Driss drove his car at high speed, until they were both arrested by the police for speeding. But Driss was not at his wits' end. He instead took advantage of Philippe by telling the police that Philippe was in need of urgent help because his stroke had recurred. In the end, the police did not stop them, instead escorting them to the hospital. When they arrived at their destination and when the policeman had left, Driss then took Philippe to a faraway place to spend their time together as a pair of friends. Driss took Philippe to a beach to get some fresh air and enjoy the beauty of nature that Philippe hadn't felt in a long time in his luxury home. The next day, Driss took Philippe out to lunch at a restaurant, but as soon as Driss sat in front of Philippe, he immediately said that he had to leave immediately, because he had important business. Before leaving, Driss gave him the decorative egg he had stolen from Philippe's house. Then Driss told Philippe that soon a special person would be coming. Driss immediately left, leaving Philippe alone there. Driss's departure made Philippe very confused and nervous, because he did not know who the special person Driss was referring to. Shortly after Driss left, suddenly a very beautiful woman came and sat in front of Philippe. It turned out that the woman was Eleanor. Secretly, it turned out that Driss had planned the meeting between Philippe and Eleanor, because actually Driss knew that Philippe still had feelings for Eleanor. From a distance, Driss, who saw the 2 of them meet for the first time, Driss smiled happily, saying that meeting Philippe and the woman he loved was the last gift Driss could give as a friend. And the film ends. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notification, so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.